o'clock. 6 o'clock, I'd like to call the regular meeting of the Queens Municipality Council Tuesday, January 5th, 2022 to order. Any changes or approval of the agenda? Hearing none, I will ask for approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Moved by Councillor Gidney, seconded by Councillor Brown. All those in favor? Contrary? Passed. Are there any petitions to table at this point in time? Hearing none. 4.0 public question comment session. I ask any of our guests who wish to speak to please identify yourself by your name and your civic address. And I remind all speakers that according to our policy, we have each person will have 5 minutes in which to speak. Anyone who wishes to speak? Mr. Robertson. You're muted. You have to unmute yourself, Mr. Robertson.
No, he's not muted. Maybe he needs to be closer.
Can you hear me now?
It's not muted.
Not seem to be muted. Can you hear me now?
If you speak really, really loud.
Okay. Leon Robertson, Holly Street in Liverpool. Yeah, I have a couple of questions here. 6.5 and 6.6. Do those tenders have the cost of installation, or is that just to provide the equipment for the playground?
I didn't hear you.
Getting up there pretty close now. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Can't hear. Pardon?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, 6.5 and 6.6 on the agenda. There, did they include the installation of that equipment, playground equipment, or is that extra?
We'll speak about that at the point in time. I believe that's for the delivery. And it may include the installation, but it certainly does not include the site preparation.
Okay. The other item under under 6.7, the Liverpool Development Center, I see you're putting some extra things in for the tenant that's there now. And I see advertised from time to time for people to work in a call center in the Liverpool area. Is that to do with our area there, or is it somewhere else?
I believe you must have missed that news, Mr. Robertson, because there is a call center, Global Empire, that is going to be operating out of the Liverpool Business Development Center.
There is?
Yes.
When is that going to happen?
They hope to be open in a few months' time. If you want to send me or get a hold of me tomorrow, I can give you some newspaper reports and some information about that.
Okay, because I see where they advertise from time to time, so I figured it was either there or coming there.
Yes.
Okay, you've answered my questions. Thank you very much.
You're quite welcome.
Bye now.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak?
Hello,
Yes.
Darlene.
Yep.
It's Ann Laws,
Yes.
19 Old Meeting House Road, Beach Meadows, and also 39 Rock Island Lane in LaBelle. I just want to address Mayor and Council again because you're having your second reading of the proposed noise bylaw during this meeting. And I just want to make a couple of comments and then get an answer from each council member. Just a yes or no will suffice. So according to the proposed bylaw, the quiet hours will now be from 11 p.m. to 6 a.m., which is 7 hours. So this means that kids and families under the proposed bylaw, if it is voted in tonight, our kids and families will not have 8 hours of uninterrupted rest. I want to ask each mayor and councillors if you acknowledge this. Just a yes or no will suffice.
And this is not question, answer, question each individual counselor period of time. This is an opportunity that many councils do not provide. And that is that it allows people from our community and elsewhere to address council, but it is not a council question answer time.
Okay, I
You
will
should
take that.
probably have asked those questions previous to this meeting.
Well, I think that this is quite an appropriate place to make my comments, so thank you. Also, I will go on to say that this proposed noise bylaw tells us that in Region of Queens, any noise, no matter how loud or how prolonged, will be tolerated and have to be tolerated by citizens. There is no recourse through the region. And we also know that there is no recourse through the RCMP, as they will not file a disturbing the peace charge for noise during non-quiet hours. I can't speak to how it is on public property, but I do know that for a fact on private property. So again, my question to you was going to be, do you acknowledge this? And because you cannot answer, I will go on. Despite having had citizen complaints, if council accepts this noise bylaw as proposed, they have shown a lack of a responsible standard of care. And they have displayed a marked departure from the standard by which responsible and competent people habitually govern themselves. And this is basically the dictionary of Canadian law's definition of gross negligence. You are aware that there are problems. You are aware that during non-quiet hours, they cannot be addressed because Region of Queens has an ineffective bylaw and the RCMP refuses to lay a disturbing the peace charge. In that, I feel that if council does vote through this proposed noise bylaw that the ad hoc committee has brought forward, that you are grossly negligent, and I believe you can be challenged. And that is my comments, and I thank you for the question and answer period and the time to voice it.
Thank you, Anne, for your comments. Are there any other people wishing to speak? Any other comments? Last chance. Any comments? If not, I'm going to ask for approval of the minutes, 5.1, regular council, January 11, 2022. Moved by Councillor Mero, seconded by Councillor Hawks, that the minutes be approved. All those in favor? Kevin? Is Kevin with us this evening? Deputy Mayor Muse? Okay, so I'll pass that. I'm uncertain, Christine, our recording secretary, if Deputy Mayor Muse is here this evening or not. I do see a partial phone number, but not the end. 6.1, ad hoc noise bylaw committee recommendation, second reading. There is a motion in the packet, Councillor Brown. Councillor Brown, you're muted, Councillor Brown.
Thank you. Sorry about that. I recommend that the Council of Region of Queens Municipality give second reading to the bylaw respecting noise.
And that's seconded by Councillor Charlton. Are there any counselors who wish to speak? This may be an opportunity to address the questions that you heard from Ms. Laws. Does anyone wish to speak or make any comments as to this motion? Counselor Fancy.
One thing I'd like to mention is just kind of looking through the Halifax noise bylaw number 200. I see that where they address things like fireworks. Why is that something that we can't do here because of different restrictions?
Any municipality is free to try and enforce bylaws. This went through our first reading. The ad hoc committee, which was a representative from every district in this region, did not believe that bylaws was something that we would be enforcing. Therefore, we did, as council had suggested, we followed the recommendations that came from the ad hoc committee. Any other councillors wish to speak on this matter? Councillor Brown.
As you probably know, I was, when I proposed this bylaw, it looked a lot different than it does now, but when we went to the ad hoc committee, we got a good feeling from the people of Queens County, what they wanted, what they didn't want. And I think, you know, that's what we have to go with today. We looked at the fireworks and it was really unenforceable with our current system right now, because our county is so big. We don't have RCMP officers stationed in all areas of the county. I think this is something that'll probably come back to us at some point. There's you know, a growing group on Facebook out there that are trying to ban fireworks. And there were some unfortunate events at New Year's. But I think at this time, we have to follow along with what our ad hoc committee recommended. And I think this is an improvement over our previous bylaws, which only banned 4 things. I think that's what we have to look at. We had no quiet hours in Queens County before this point. If we don't pass this bylaw right now, there will be no quiet hours in Queens County, and people will be free to make those same noises all night long that people are worried about during the daytime. Noise bylaws or any bylaws in a region are organic. They're living documents that can be changed if they don't work. But I think this is a good place to start in my feelings.
Thanks, Sir Councillor Brown, and I recognize the fact that you came from a district which had many issues in your area. Any other councillors wish? Councillor Charlton.
Thank you. I would like to just echo Dave's comments on that, and I sat on that ad hoc committee as well, and I support this document as it came from those members which were of those districts. And because this is a living document, if things change over the next couple of years, this can always be readdressed, but I support this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Charlton, for your comments. Any other councillor wishes to comment? Councillor Gidney?
Yes, in-laws brought up the any noise or done in the non-quiet, outside of the non-quiet hours, the RCP won't investigate. I find that very difficult. Like, so the RCMP refused. Like, I'm not sure what the point is there. So I think that's, if that's a problem, then I think the residents should be talking directly to the RCMP to see exactly what is going on. If somebody is, if it's not during the non-quiet hour in their excessive noise, then I think the RCMP should at least entertain something, look at it. Maybe not large or lay charges, but at least go and investigate and see what's taking place.
Thank you, Councillor Gidney. And I know the people involved have contacted the RCMP. They have had various discussions with the RCMP. And up until this point in time, there has been little satisfaction on the complainant's part. However, that is not to say that things will not change in the future.
Okay, thank you.
Any other councillors who wish to speak before I call for the vote? Hearing none, I'll ask for the call. All those in favor of the second reading as proposed? Contrary? Carried. And I just need to check again. Deputy Mayor Muse, are you with us this evening? Okay,
Mayor Norman, can you hear me?
yes,
Sorry, my video seems spotty. I didn't know if I was getting kicked off, but Deputy Mayor Muse was on, but he said he couldn't unmute, and then he said he got kicked off. So I think he's trying to reconnect currently.
okay, thank you. 6.3, no, 6.2 is an ad hoc personnel policy committee. There is a recommendation in the package if someone would so make that recommendation. Councillor Hawks,
I move that the council appoint Councillor Vicky Amiro and Councillor Ralph Gidney to the Ad hoc Personnel Policy Review Committee.
and it's seconded by Councillor Brown. And for those in our audience, this committee is going to be looking at draft changes that the diversity and inclusion coordinator and other staff have suggested be made to all of our policies. So they will be going through all the policies. It's a very lengthy process, and they will be suggesting changes and then bringing them back to us for approval or any further changes. So I'm going to call for the question on that motion. All those in favor? Contrary? Passed. 6.3, there is a recommendation in your package. Councillor Romero.
I move that the Council of Region of Queens Municipality approve the application made by Diversity and Inclusion Action Team to have the transgender flag flown on the special purpose flagpole located in front of the Town Hall Arts and Cultural Center, Liverpool, for a 1-week period from November 14th through November 20th, 2022, inclusive.
And that is seconded by Councillor Hawks. And Ms. Conley is here to answer any questions regarding this request. Ms. Conley, it falls within the policy.
Yes, it does.
Any questions? Councillor Gidney.
I see that in November, we have the Veteran Flag Week. And there's no dates, but I assume that dates are from November the 4th to November the 11th. Is that correct?
No, it isn't. No, Veterans Week, we will fly our flag from November the 1st to the 14th.
Okay, thank you.
Good question, Councillor Gidney. Any other questions before I ask for the question? Seeing none, I'm going to ask for the question. All those in favor? Contrary? Passed. 6.4, Region 6 Solid Waste Management. So we have before us the suggested budget for Region 6 Solid Waste. There is a recommendation within your package. Someone wishes to make that recommendation?
I could.
Councillor Charlton?
I move that the Council of Region of Queens Municipality approve Region 6 Solid Waste Management's proposed budget for the year 2022-2023.
And that is seconded by Councillor Brown. Scott LeBlanc, our Solid Waste Management Clerk Safety Officer, is here. And Scott can answer any questions that you may have. Does anyone have any questions of Scott regarding the proposed budget for Region 6 Solid Waste? Any questions? Budget was pretty straightforward and explanatory. Any questions? I found it interesting to note that last year, 15,000, we get back 8, and yet we get $48,000 in diversion credits through Region 6. So every municipality within municipal unit supports this, and by putting our monies all together, we all get an excellent program out of this. Are you sure no one has any questions? Hearing none, I'm going to ask for the question. All those in favor? Contrary? Passed. Next up for some recommendation is 6.5. 6.5 is the tender submissions for a universally designed play park. And leading this discussion will be Elise Johnson, our accessibility coordinator, who has been working closely with the steering committee and Autism Nova Scotia. So there is a motion within the package. Councillor Gidney.
You have to unmute, Ralph.
Recommendation that the Council of the Region of Queens Municipality authorize staff to negotiate final design and purchase of play park components with play power at the estimated cost of $164,719.47 plus HST.
And that is seconded by Councillor Amaro. So Elise, do you want to just give us a little bit of background information, perhaps answer the question that was asked in the question comment session, which was, does this include the installation of the equipment?
Right. Good evening. You can hear me all right?
Yes.
All right. Try to recap quickly the background. We know that the Region of Queens Municipality had an agreement with PAC Autism Nova Scotia that was signed in 2019 and was extended. It's still open now until April. And once Autism Nova Scotia was going to do the background of selecting equipment, they looked at first preliminary budgets, they put the package together, and along with the local fundraising team, they raised a lot of money, great community support. And then it goes to the region to manage the equipment purchase, the whole tender process. So we're at that point now. We were able to put together, the steering committee consists of the CAO, Director of Engineering and Public Works, Director of Recreation and Healthy Communities, myself, and the Community Development Coordinator. So we all sat together and added a little bit to what Autism Nova Scotia had put forth. I showed their list in the package. You know, we want ramp to access, we want a couple roof, we want a variety of level challenges, climbers, some interactive panels, an inclusive sandbox, spinners, wobbling elements, a bunch of different swings, multi-generational, accessible, all of that. And then what the steering committee added was a teen challenge. We asked, of course, for the standard CSA and accessibility standards to be met. We asked for warranties. We asked for maintenance info, the company team experience. We got some local references that have been checked, rationale on elements. And to clarify the earlier question, the play equipment, we have asked for the design, supply, and installation of the equipment itself. That excludes the site prep, the excavation, and it excludes the surfacing. We can manage that because there's more, it just makes more sense to package it differently. And Megan Roberts will be speaking to the splash park elements. So with that, we put them out early December. We were able to move fairly quickly. And 4 to 5 weeks later, we received about 4 proposals we had allowed for 3 proposals from each company so that they could present, maybe fulfill all our wishes, but it went over budget, or what is under budget. We kind of tried to give them some leeway there. We had some strong proposals, and it was fairly clear to us that we should be looking at Play Power, who gave the most equipment, the most value for money. They fulfilled all our asks, including a stainless steel spiral slide, which is required to not get the static electricity when you have a cochlear implant. They gave an autism-friendly quiet grove. They gave the inclusive sand, a very big sand table where multiple wheelchairs can come up. They looked very strong. The downfall is the delivery time. And we know the story now with COVID. I hope the truckers don't make it any worse, but we really believe that the value is worth the wait. So I think that kind of covers the big parts.
And thank you, Ms. Johnson, for that. We are indeed privileged that past council accepted this and moved forward with it. And this council is very pleased to finish a project that they completed. And it's quite wonderful. So if any councilors wishes to speak, I see one of our guests is trying to light up to speak, but during council meetings, councilors are the only ones who speak during council sessions. So any councilors wishes to speak or comment on this project or any questions to Ms. Johnston? Councilor Romero.
Hi, this is a wonderful project we're all excited about. We had great community support. In our package, there's 2 pictures. Is there different views of the one setup?
Yes.
And I know that there's no swings in this pictures, but they are included.
Correct. There
Yeah.
are 5 swings, a multi-generational, a full inclusive with a harness, a toddler bucket seat, and 2 regular strap seats. And they take, a lot of swing space, buffer zone, but everything fit properly. So you're seeing 2 views, sort of a one side and the other. And I suspect moving forward, we could share more of the plan. We could get through more details with you, but
Thank you.
Any other councilor who wishes to speak? Councilor Gidney.
Yes, I just want to point out, this was a major, massive undertaking, and I just want to thank all those involved. There's some people that were just really into it consistently, and I'm just so pleased that everyone's come together on this. And thank you very much for all the work that's been done. Thank you.
Any other Councilor Brown?
I'd almost like to copy what Ralph said, but I have members of my family who would have greatly benefited by this if it had been in place years ago. So I'm really thankful to past council, to the members of the community and staff who came together to make this at all possible. And I think it's going to be a great thing for Queens County.
Indeed, it will be. Any other councilors? Councilor Fancy.
Sometimes hard to get the unmute off. Really appreciate all the hard work, but it shows forth community work too. And it shows forth dedication with the group that started it. And but I don't like to put names out there like Debbie, I wouldn't say that. But we really appreciate everything they've done. And as we look forward to this, does this come in, like we see the whole unit, is it like will come as a package and start and then add something to it? Or does it all come as one unit and then when it won't be all completed, that's at one time?
so delivery will be pieces, but it will be installed as a single unit. Some are standalone. And then we'll have another company do the surfacing, and sort of simultaneously the splash pad can be constructed, installed. And a final thing will be the fence for safety. So there are parts to the bigger picture of the project, but the idea is that it is opened as a totality. We can't just have, one and not the fence, or, then break down the fence to do another part. So the idea is to have the whole thing as one.
But Ms. Johnson, but hopefully it's going to arrive week, and it's not going to be a piece and then wait 3 months and then months and months and months. I believe that's what Councillor Fancy was
Oh, sorry.
wondering.
Okay, no, and possibly that's part of the delay. All the play park pieces are delivered together.
And that's why it was noted that although this company had the latest delivery date, so it's going to be months and months and months before they're able to deliver. I hate to say an opening date, but it may well be in the fall. And it's simply because of the wait for the equipment. Is that not true, Ms. Johnston?
Yes.
But we've waited this long.
We would
And-
rather have more value in good time. Yes.
Exactly. Any other questions before I ask for Councillor Charlton?
Thank you. I just think it's important to note as well with COVID and the shipping delays that really nothing is guaranteed to arrive on a certain time. So if you were to go with an earlier company, you could still end up waiting the same time frame as the later company. So I think you choose the best one in this scenario, and I'm very excited for the project. So thank you to everyone who did this.
Is that it for comments? I'm going to ask for the question. All those in favor?
Yes.
Oh, good, Kevin. I saw you there before. Glad to have you here. Just for Christine's record, were you present during at the beginning?
Yes.
Okay.
I was just bumped off there for a little while and then I got back on.
Okay.
I just couldn't. It wouldn't unmute for some reason. I don't know what's going on.
Okay. Thank you very much, Deputy Muse. So that was passed. Next item up is item 6.6, the recommendation for the spray pad components. Councillor Romero.
I move that the Council of Region of Queens Municipality authorize staff to negotiate final design and purchase of spray pad components with ABC Recreation at an estimated cost of $69,983.68 plus HST.
And that is seconded by Councillor Charlton. And Ms. Roberts is leading this discussion. So Ms. Roberts, would just give us a bit of background on this, and then you can take any questions that council wishes to ask.
Obviously, you've known me too long.
Might have taught you to swim.
Yeah. I think Elise gave a really good background to the project in itself. So the process for the RFP, excuse me, for the spray pad was the same as the play park. We took the suggestions of the PAC Autism Committee, and that's what we included as part of our RFP document. And we, for this one, provided the space available, and they were able to put in the elements based on the space, and they know the spray zones and all the areas that need certain allocations there. So they were kind of given the general idea, which we outlined in the report of what we'd like to see, and then they just fit it into the space available. So we were most impressed by the ABC option A, and it provided some things that I think will be really appreciated by those using the park. There's interactive elements. There's some parts that move, and I think it's provides that little bit different. Kids love that stuff. So they were able to provide us with those, and obviously everybody was within the allowable water consumption. And this one used, a good amount of water still within the allowable amounts, but it just, kids love the different features and they were able to put those all into it. So.
Thank you, Ms. Roberts.
You're
Are
welcome.
there any questions of Ms. Roberts? Any questions about the spray pad? Nope. And before I just ask for that motion, I just noted that Susan McLeod is with us, a former councillor for the region of Queens. And once again, we are also very thankful and grateful to the fact that the past council actually allowed this to happen, because if it hadn't been for them, we wouldn't be where we are today. So, and one other thing, Ms. Johnston and Ms. Roberts, you have been working closely with Autism Nova Scotia on this, and they are happy and delighted with what you've been able to purchase and everything going forward to this point. They both nodded yes. So if there's no other questions, I will ask for the question. All those in favor?
Yes.
Yep. Thank you, Deputy Muse. Against? Passed. There is a recommendation in your package. If someone would, is 6.7, request from the Liverpool Business Development Center tenant. Councillor Fancy.
I so recommend that the Council of the Region of Queens Municipality authorize an estimate investment of $33,500 plus HST in Liverpool Business Development Center to develop separate washroom and kitchen facilities for Bellevue Vino to be funded from the Special Operating Reserve.
And this is seconded by Councillor Gidney. Your background papers are here, as is CAO McNeil. It does state that although it's coming from the Special Operating Reserve, it is a call center reserve, which is part of that Special Operating Reserve. Are there any questions of CAO McNeil? Councillor Romero.
This quote, is this for the region staff to complete this project or an outside contractor?
CAO McNeil, there he is.
That would be best for Adam to explain the quote and how it came about.
Okay.
Good evening. Yes, the quote would be all region staff with the exclusion of probably 2 subcontractors local to South Queens assisting with some of the work.
Councillor Romero, does that answer your question? Are there any other questions?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? I'm going to ask for the question. Seeing no other questions, I'm going to ask for the question. All those in favor of the recommendation as presented? Contrary? Thank you, Deputy Mayor Muse. 6.8, Municipal Innovation Program application. There is a recommendation within your package. Someone so wishes to make that recommendation. Councillor Romero.
I move that the Council of Region of Queens Municipality authorize the submission of an application under the province's Municipal Innovation Program for up to 75% funding for an asset management coordinator and associated costs.
And that is seconded by Councillor Brown. As you know, we discussed earlier the hiring of an asset management coordinator. We had believed the money could come from the Canada Community Capacity Building Fund, formerly known as the gas tax. And that money cannot come from that fund unless it was an outside contractor. In discussions our CAO has had with the province, there is money available up to 75% funding that we can apply for if we do it quickly. because there's still money in that fund. So we could actually apply for 75% of that money, and we're only going to have to pay 25% of what we had earlier been looking at for a cost. If there are any questions of CAO McNeil, please put your hand up and I will direct them to him. Councillor Charlton.
Thank you. So I'm just wondering about this, recognizing that it was brought forward because it could be funded through gas tax. That's no longer the case. So we can fund it up to 75%, but am I correct in assuming that this 75% would be for 1 year? Because it would have to fall within that budget year, correct?
We're waiting for CAO McNeil to unmute. There he is.
That would be correct.
So one issue I have with this is that this position was brought forward with the idea that it could be funded and it's a full-time position. So with this changing, I get that it would still have to be full-time, but I'm just wondering if we shouldn't be looking at changing it to a term position for a year, with it be able to be reassessed to the next budget year, recognizing that we're not in our budget process yet and we do not know where we stand, and recognizing that there's still money in this grant, but will we even get the 75%? That's all my comments for that. Thank you.
If we don't apply for the funding now, then we will not have it. And as you know, as we discussed, this asset management position is at least a 2-year position. So we either apply for the 75% funding, knowing full well that we're going to need someone with an engineering degree, diploma, to look at what's required to complete that asset management position. Or we advertise for a 1-year term, we pay the full shot, and whether or not we have applicants who are looking for a 1-year term job at the level of qualification we need is a gamble that you would have to be willing to take.
May I just clarify, Mayor Norman?
Yes.
I'm not against applying for the funding. What I mean is the position that was passed at the last or the recommendation that was passed at the last council meeting was to put this position out, and it was a full-time position. So could we not look at changing this to a term position, given the fact that it can't be fully funded through gas tax? Because at the last council meeting, our director of engineering and public works said that this position could be this job could be wrapped up within the 2 years. So that is what my comment was. It was not against the applying for the funding. It was rather than changing this to either a 1-year term or perhaps it's the 2-year term, but not a full-time position that we don't know, where we stand with like funding and budget is what I meant. Thank you.
It's always the will of council to do whatever they wish. If it's the will of council to change to withdraw the last motion made, which would have to give you a notice of motion, then that would be entirely council's decision. So I guess I need to hear from some other members of council.
Madam Mayor.
Yes. Yes, Deputy Mayor.
So the last council meeting, we voted on it with the idea that it was going to be coming from gas tax.
Correct.
So now we have found out that it's not going to be coming from gas tax. So isn't that motion out of order? Because now we have to come up with a new way to get the funding. And I have to agree with Councilor Charlton. If we do that, and I think we should go back to saying it's a 2-year term and not a full-time job, because we planned on paying for this job out of gas tax and it wasn't going to affect our tax rate. But now we're going to find out that we might not be able to get the money every year for this job. So maybe we better go back to a 2-year term and figure out after that what happens.
Are there other comments? Councillor Brown.
When we had our discussions at the last council meeting about making this a permanent job, it was because we had anticipated this job transitioning into a full-time position in the public works when the assessment was done. The assessment's going to take 2 years. If we don't get this done quickly, we're behind the 8 ball now, and we won't have a gas tax to worry about. And I think if we lose the $600,000 a year of the gas tax, it's going to negatively impact our tax rates for our residents much more than we're worried about. If we have to find funding for this now out of our operating budget, it frees up the money out of the gas tax that we are getting. So, you know, it's no difference to the amount of money we spend each year. It's just an accounting procedure from which account it comes from, whether it comes from operating or whether it comes from the gas tax. We're still going to be spending the exact same amount of money. So, you know, I don't see a big change in that. And we know that this job is going to transition into a full-time position in public works when this job is done. So I think we have to get moving on this. I don't think we can afford to wait because we won't get this job done. And if we don't have this job done by X date on the map, there will be no gas taxes for Queens County.
Any other councilors wish to comment? Councillor Gidney?
I'm a little struggling with if this will be a full-time position. I'm in agreement that we should have a 2-year term at this point, and then see where it goes in 2 years and not make it full-time. So I agree that we should look back at this and re-look at this. That is a 2-year term position or 2-year position.
If I may, Mayor,
Yes.
just to clarify. So the program that's before you today is applying for funding for 1 year for 75% funding. If we were eligible under gas tax, we would have to pay 100% of our own costs and get no cost sharing. So this is a benefit to us, as Councillor Brown said, where we're only spending 25% of our money this year versus we would normally be spending $100,000, or not 100,000, but 100% of our funding. The intent of, has been shared with council, we expect to have some retirements in our public works department in the next year or two. And the intent is, by hiring a full-time person, the pool of candidates that are going to apply is going to be much deeper and much longer than if we apply and it's a term position. Advertising a term position will limit the amount of candidates and the quality of candidates severely. And we're already in a depressed labor market, which is very difficult to attract quality people, especially engineers. And so it's not the intention for staff to burden the taxpayers or to increase the tax rate based on this position. It is simply to make sure we have our asset management plan in place. Hopefully we get the 75% funding. So our cost on the for this year on the operating budget is 25%. And we'll find some cost efficiencies in the budget to find that savings or find that cost. And then within the next year or two, another position will be eliminated and this position will flow into that position. So we're adding a new position for a year or two, but it's not a permanent full-time position for years and years and years down the road. That is the plan. If for some reason the person doesn't work out, or we determine we don't need that position, there's nothing to prevent us from laying the person off and moving on from that position without it being a term position. So staff feels strongly if we don't leave it as a full-time position as advertised, we are going to be severely limited in the quality of the candidates we get, and it may actually delay us finding a candidate that's suitable, which will delay this process.
Are any other comments before I call for the motion? Councillor Fancy?
I can see both sides of the argument with trying to get a quality person to come forward. But when we talk about if we're doing 75% of the cost by getting the money from the government or using the gas tax money, and the gas tax money is ours. So that's, you know, it's chicken or the egg, whichever way you're going to be, it's still our money that we're spending. So I don't see that is part of it. I do think of the accountability, and that I think it should be a 2-year term, and that we should be able to reevaluate it then.
Councillor Charlton?
Thank you. So it was brought forward about the urgency to have this asset management plan done, but in recognizing that we do have a very small pool with our labor markets, then what will happen? And I'm asking this question because we've not had uptake on our building inspector positions and our planning positions. So what will happen if we cannot fulfill this position, whether it would be a 2-year advertised as a 2-year term position or a full-time position, recognizing that we still have to have that asset management done, and it has fallen within our current staff within the region to date. So I would just like to know what that would look like, because of the concerns that if one should not apply, regardless of the term, or if whether it's full-time.
If I may, Mayor Norman,
Yes,
if we're unsuccessful in finding a suitable candidate, we will have to contract it out to the private sector at 2 to 3 times the cost.
Thank you.
are there any other questions? Councillor Romero?
I have to agree with CAO McNeil. It definitely would probably limit our capability of hiring somebody that can actually do the job. But I don't think there's a problem. We were told that, you know, if in 2 or 3 years, if the position in the engineering department is not suitable, whoever it is could be laid off. So I don't see a problem. I think this is something we definitely have to take a stand on and get on fast. Thank you.
Any further comments? Not, I'm going to ask for the question. All those in favor of the recommendation as presented? 1, 2, 3, 4. Contrary?
Nay.
1, 2, 3, 4. So a tie is a defeat. So therefore, we will not be applying for submission of 75% funding for this position. And staff is going to have to review whether or not we have to review and have a withdrawal of the former motions. And we are at that point. So council has made that decision. I suspect you'll see this on your next agenda package. Under 7.1, provision of staff for income tax bookings. So at our last meeting, Councillor Amaro, do you want to speak about this? Because you and I have had discussion.
Yes, the region was not taking bookings this year, phone calls for the income tax preparation. We've been doing it for many years. It's brought to our attention that the staff is now too overloaded and too busy to actually take the bookings, because we've had multiple calls. Thankfully, we've had community members step up and offer to help with this important process. And I know it's frustrating sometimes to do bookings online, which some have suggested, but we're very happy that somebody has stepped up, is going to do the bookings over the phone. And I would personally like to thank the person who graciously took on this very important task. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Merrill. So at this point in time, I was talking with Ted Bully as recently as yesterday. They will be the 1st of February providing the name, the phone number of the contact person, because they do not wish calls taken at this point in time. So, and also for council's information, I did inquire around to other counties how they do this. And as we were told, there are some that do them by drop in and wait. And there are others like Barrington that have drop-off points where people drop their income tax forms off, and then they're gathered up, and then they're taken back, and then the person signs them there. So fortunately for us, there were actually 3 people that I know of that reached out that said they would help with the booking system. One person offered to do it all. So you'll find out who that is when Ted Boley, who's in charge of this program, or the public will, when Ted Boley, who's in charge of this program, makes that information public. So is there any other comments regarding that? Okay. Next is the Nova Scotia Municipalities Spring Conference. So the Nova Scotia Federation of Municipalities is having their spring conference at White Point Beach Resort, May 4th to the 6th, if COVID allows. So if COVID allows, they are hopeful that they're going to be having a spring conference at White Point Beach Resort. What they generally do is they ask for a representative from the host municipal unit, so that would be us. They ask for a representative to sit on their planning committee. The planning committee, as you know, I sent you an email stating they wanted to gather suggestions that we might have for topics. So they'll be gathering all the suggested topics from all the municipalities in Nova Scotia. And then the planning committee that they're looking for a member for, the planning committee looks at them all and decides what the theme of the conference will be and what topics they're going to discuss. Whoever, if anyone wishes to be appointed to the planning committee for the NSFM spring or the NSFN spring conference, you have to attend their meetings or planning meetings. And you generally in the past, you're expected to be there for the entire conference. And you may also be required to introduce speakers, thank speakers, etc. And if the conference is in real life, then as a municipal unit, we are also offered the opportunity to provide a social night, but we can discuss that at another point in time, because that would be at 100% our cost if we do a social night or not. So first off, is there anyone who's interested in sitting on the planning committee for the NSFM, for the conference? If no one wishes to, mayors in the past have traditionally done that, but if someone else wishes to sit on that planning committee and then attend the meeting and host and welcome and do all that, then I will relinquish that and someone else can do it if they so wish. Is there anyone that wishes to take on that task?
Mayor
Councilor
Norman,
Charlton?
I'm sorry, I'm not asking to take on the task. I'm just curious of, so when would that, what would be the time frame of that? What does that look like? When do the meetings start and so on
They
and so
start
forth?
in February. The first one is February the 10th from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m.
Okay, so these are all weekdays through the day time?
Yep.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Because they all work on their work time. Anyone, is there any objection if I offer to sit on that committee, seeing how I'm here working those days anyway? Is there any objection to that? Okay, so I'll put my name forward to be on that steering committee. Did anyone have any topics that they would like to see discussed at the spring meeting? You have some time yet to submit any if you have them, but are there issues that you think should be on the spring conference? No one has thought of any to date? No? Okay. So if you think of some, please let me know, and we probably should have a motion. Unisem says our planning committee would be interested in appointing, if Queens would be interested in appointing a representative. So therefore we'll need a motion for an appointment. Councillor Brown,
I move that Mayor Norman take the position on the planning committee for the NSFM spring conference.
and that's seconded by Councillor Miro. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Yep.
Contrary? Thank you, Deputy Mayor Muse. And that is the end, I believe, of our public discussion point. It is 7:01. Would 5 minutes be enough for or 5-minute break? Maybe 7:10. 7:10 will resume the in camera, so we'll need a motion to move in camera. Moved by Councillor Charlton, seconded by Councillor Brown. And I have the call-in number, so I just need to run down the hall for a minute, and then I'll come back and dial in. So give me a few minutes before you try to dial in to the call number for the in-camera discussions. Okay?
Still have to hold the vote.
Pardon?
Mayor Norman, we've had for recommendation in a second, but we haven't had the vote on going into.
Oh, that one. Okay. On the what?
Going in camera. We
Oh,
didn't hold a vote.
all those in favor?
Yay.
Thank you. You and Councillor Charlton are really good for keeping me in line on that one. Okay, so I'll listen to y'all in about 10 minutes time.
Great, thank you.